everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we are going to be looking at Google's experimental tool called NoteBookLM. This isn't just like another app you'd find like in your overflowing app drawer on your phone. We're talking about something that has the potential to be a game changer for research and learning.
Yeah, it's really exciting because it's designed specifically for deep dives. Imagine like being able to synthesize information from a pile of PDFs or websites or even like YouTube videos all in one place.
And you know we love our sources here. For this deep dive, we are working with firsthand accounts from Google's own people. We have a webinar recording. It's like we get to peek behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
And even the presentation slides themselves. So are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely. You know, what I find particularly intriguing about NoteBookLM is that it's not just about collecting a bunch of data. It's about having a conversation with that data.
Right. It's not just a digital filing cabinet. So how does it actually work?
So think of it kind of like a scientist's lab notebook, but on like a whole new level. You can bring in up to 50 different sources like articles, videos, audio recordings, you name it, and then NoteBookLM helps you actually make sense of it all.
Okay, so I'm picturing like my desk usually where I've got like papers and sticky notes everywhere. 50 sources would send me over the edge. How does NoteBookLM wrangle all of that information?
Well, that's where the concept of these notebooks comes in. It's really crucial to organize your projects within NoteBookLM, just like you would with like physical notebooks. That way you're not just lost in this sea of information.
Organization is key. But let's be real, it's not just about like organizing the information, it's about actually using it.
Exactly. And NoteBookLM actually gives you two really powerful ways to do just that: guided approach and conversational mode.
Okay, break those down for us. What's so special about those approaches?
Sure. So guided approach is kind of like having a research assistant by your side. Let's say you need to get like a really quick summary of a complex research paper. With guided approach, you can literally click a summarize button, and NoteBookLM will generate like a concise overview for you.
Wow, that's seriously cool. But what about when you need to dig a little deeper?
Yeah. That's where conversational mode comes in. Imagine being able to ask like complex questions across all 50 of your sources just in plain English, almost like you're just, chatting with a knowledgeable colleague.
Oh, okay. So instead of me doing mental gymnastics in my head, like, wait, where did I see that fact about it? I can just ask NoteBookLM directly.
Precisely. It really streamlines that whole research process. They actually gave a great example of this in the webinar. They were using, I think it was a medical confidence program as one of their examples. And somebody had asked, how can I participate in the Scientifico contest? And NoteBookLM pulled the answer straight from the program materials.
So it's saving you from those frantic last-minute searches. Love that. But I think what really struck me is that this isn't just some far-off concept. Like, people are already using NoteBookLM to make their lives easier and their work more efficient.
Yeah, they showed some really, really cool use cases in the webinar. They had this social media expert, Eva, and she was talking about how she uses NoteBookLM to craft like really insightful tweets, especially during conferences.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Conferences can be so overwhelming. There's just like information overload. So being able to just like very quickly distill those key takeaways into, like easily digestible tweets, I can see how that would be incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's like having a personal assistant summarizing all those keynote speeches on the fly, basically. She's even showing how she organizes everything within NoteBookLM. So like the conference programs and the speaker bios and the presentation slides, and then bam, instant insightful tweets. Yeah, and it's not even just about the speed, right? It's about the accuracy as well.
Yeah.
Like pulling from the most relevant information quickly and reliably.
Yeah.
That's essential. And that actually reminds me of another really fascinating use case that they talked about in the webinar.
Oh, yes. This one blew my mind a little bit. Jose Miguel, he works with healthcare data.
Oh, wow.
And you know how that field is, like such a minefield of regulations and everything.
Yeah, talk about high stakes. You got to make sure that you are 100% compliant.
Exactly.
I can see how NoteBookLM could really shine in that kind of situation.
Yeah, he was showing how he uses it to analyze these like dense legal documents to make sure that all of his projects are, airtight.
Oh, wow. That kind of peace of mind is invaluable, honestly.
Yeah. Seriously, can you imagine like the alternative? Being hunched over stacks of legal jargon with like a highlighter, just like highlighting till your hand cramps up. NoteBookLM takes all that pain away. And then if that wasn't enough, they had Edu, who's some kind of tech expert, and he uses it to get AI feedback on his presentations.
Whoa, that's amazing. It's like having a built-in super smart editor, that can catch inconsistencies and maybe like suggest relevant data points or even point out like potential blind spots in your arguments.
I know, right? That's amazing. I need that in my life. Maybe for my to-do list or something. But speaking of potential pitfalls, I did think it was really interesting that even with all this like exciting stuff, the webinar did take the time to highlight that Notebook LM, like any AI, does have its limitations.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
At the end of the day, this technology is still under development
Mm-hmm.
and, it relies on the information that it's fed.
Mm.
So it's really, really crucial to not just take everything as gospel truth, especially when you're dealing with, critical topics.
Yeah.
You always want to be double checking those facts.
Right. Don't go firing your fact checker just yet. But with all that being said, I mean, the possibilities for Notebook LM's future are incredibly exciting. They hinted at some really, really cool features that are in development. One that I thought was super interesting was an AI-generated podcast feature.
Really? That's interesting.
I know.
I mean, the idea of like turning your research into a podcast with just a few clicks,
Yeah.
it really does make you think about the future of, content creation. Right.
Right. Imagine like hitting a button and then you have this like polished podcast ready to share. It's kind of mind-blowing, and people are already like getting really creative with it. They were even mentioning how somebody had tricked the AI podcast feature into having an existential crisis.
Wow. That's both hilarious and a little unnerving, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really speaks to like how quickly this technology is evolving. And speaking of evolution, they did mention that Notebook LM will likely become a paid part of Google Workspace at some point.
Right, which, I mean, it makes sense from, like, a business standpoint, but it does raise some interesting questions about accessibility, right? Like, who gets to benefit from these really powerful tools, and how do we make sure that it's being used responsibly?
Yeah, for sure. Those are definitely some important considerations there. But, thinking about Notebook LM's potential impact on content creation got me thinking, if tools like this make it so easy to, like, synthesize information and turn it into something, are we going to see a rise in, like, more generic content online, like more almost like bland content?
That's a really good question. It's like, it's almost like the difference between like a meal that somebody cooked at home with love versus like a mass-produced energy bar or something. Like they both provide sustenance, but only one of them is really offering like a truly unique and satisfying experience, right?
Exactly. And I think that's the exciting challenge,
Yeah.
and the opportunity for all of us, really. Like Notebook LM, it can provide the ingredients, it can give us the raw material, but it's up to us, the humans, to bring our unique perspectives and insights and even our quirks to the table.
Absolutely. It's not enough to just master the tool itself. We have to use those tools to create something that's distinct, something that stands out from the crowd and adds value to the conversation. So as you're, diving into the world of Notebook LM, which, by the way, I highly encourage you to do, I think it's a fantastic tool, I want to challenge you to think about this. How can you leverage its capabilities to create something that's truly unique and insightful?
Yeah, because in a world that's just overflowing with information, it's those unique voices, the people who are willing to like really dive deep and share their perspectives authentically. Those are the voices that are gonna to capture our attention and ultimately like leave a lasting impact.
Beautifully said. And who knows, maybe your explorations with Notebook LM will spark an idea for a future deep dive here on the show. But until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those insightful questions coming.